back end. So that's pretty much soup to nuts what we do as a company to find companies. Launched a company back in 2017. You know, the program did a lot for me, and the opportunity opened a lot of doors, so I'm here giving back to the program. So looking forward to seeing you guys' presentations here.
Welcome. Danilo, you want to say some words about you?
I'll say something. So my name is Danilo. I graduated, I think about a year and a half.
17 or 18? 18,
yeah. I am a real estate broker. A lot of you guys come from that part of the industry. I have a team that does a lot of residential. I started to do more commercial. This year we have sold 2 properties, about $3 million each. And I partnered in one of them with one of the students from this program as well. What I learned from this program was that it opened my eyes. Everything that I knew, because I had like about 16 years of experience, it made it all come together. So I've been able to put a lot of bigger deals and better deals and have more strategies to work with different types of property that before I wasn't prepared for. So those are my 2 cents, and want to hear what you have to say about this cyclone. And remember this. I remember this cyclone class.
Cool. One thing to mention, he also offers internships, and one of his past interns sits actually here.
That's right.
And she did her GIS project last year about her internship and the GIS used for her internship. With that, that's Miriam. Yeah. All right. So, order of presentations today. Super easy, by alphabet. So, 360 first, city sphere, diversity, Elmwood development. A to C, numbers first, and then alphabet. Yeah?
Sure.
The setup is you have 15 minutes presentation and about 10 minutes Q&A. If Q&A is shorter or longer as warranted, we'll have enough time in that session. I will cut you off at 15 minutes, meaning you can finish the sentence or paragraph or that slide, but you're not going to jump back and forth and trying to make an argument with me about when to stop. All right? Load it up. I like this one. All right, you guys are ready?
You ready?
Go for it.
Okay, good afternoon. We are 360 Development. Here's our picture. I'm L'Oreal Rice. I'll be acting as the city liaison. This is Armando. He's the neighborhood liaison. Sean, our director of marketing. Lay is our site planner. And Miriam, our financial analyst. So just a little background first on our development company, 360. If you type that into dictionary.com, it'll give you a definition of being all-inclusive. So that's what our mission statement as a company is to when we get projects to redevelop, we make sure we consider all things in the area we are redeveloping and not completely destroy the legacy and the history of a site. So that was very important while we were redeveloping Elmwood. So as the city liaison, we had a few goals of new construction of office, retail, and residential. We wanted to rehabilitate some of the worn down buildings and provisions of new community and recreational facilities, and also to regain the feel of a prosperous small town. So with the history of the Elmwood district that started back in the 1800s, there was a lot of, it was a very quaint historical town that people took pride in. And over time, when successful people started moving out, it kind of started to decrease in that sense. So we're trying to bring that back with the city intentions. The city will be funding for the public benefit. So that means we are considering heavily the people in the neighborhood, how they feel about this and what they want. And we expect to recover all investments in the project through increased tax revenues within a 10-year time. And we did it by first considering the people, so.
Yes, so the neighborhood requests were from Elmwood Alliance, Jobs for Justice, Pro Arts, Skate On, and Grace Memorial Church. Elmwood Alliance, all they wanted were to remove the homeless shelter and no Q-mark or high rises for lower income households. Jobs for Justice wanted the most at affordable housing. They wanted more jobs in the city, basic retail stores for ease of living, Q-Mart for jobs, community center for the less able, and assurance that we wouldn't drive the homeless out of the city. Pro Arts was asking for 18,000 square feet in the community center, and Skate On was asking for a 10,000 square foot skate park. And Grace Memorial Church was just asking for a homeless shelter. What we were able to give them were the affordable housing, one high-rise for higher income households, general use parks for anybody, even including the skaters in the neighborhood, retail space for ease of living and more than enough jobs, and as well as the office space, and we kept the residential and historical landmarks, which the Elmwood Alliance was really into. What we eliminated was the homeless shelter. We made the community center big enough so that the church could house, could implement services for the homeless. And we got rid of anything that was blighting to the Elmwood Alliance. And we didn't give a skate park, thinking that it was 10,000 square feet for one sport was just useless. So we implemented the general use parks, which is fairly good.
Our development will yield a return of 18.7% to the developer and a profit of almost 1.8 million to the city.
So we worked together. I worked as the director of marketing. My name is Sean, with the site planner, Lay, and on the overall site plan and where everything is laid, and Lay will get into that more in detail. Worked also with the city liaison. As L'Oreal mentioned, there was a lot of things that the city needed, both to get their income back and then also to make more of a profit, which Miriam, our financial analyst, helped out with tremendously. And then there was a lot of neighborhood concerns that Armando, as the neighborhood liaison, had to take into account. There were some things that he spoke to me about, both on providing for the neighbors and then also making sure that the marketing for the community was successful. So we all worked together on this vision. The marketing attractions towards our vision statement was, first off, to create a lifestyle community, have a lot of residential, have walkability, open green space. As you'll see coming up here on our site plan, we have 105,000 square feet of open green space and recreational areas. And then we also did not give the homeless shelter for our community. We decided not to. And we did give a big open green space and recreational area right in front of the church that you'll see on our upcoming site plan, which we, both as marketing and then speaking to the city liaison and the neighborhood liaison, we felt like it was a good compromise because we gave that open green space right in front of the church so that they could have events for fundraisers and possibly soup kitchens to invite the local homeless there on the weekends. We have a good amount of office as you go into our main road. We have low amount of retail because we felt like it was more of a neighborhood type of a community rather than people coming from the outside and going shopping. And then Lay will also talk more about the linkages and the flows in our overall site plan. And then just to break down, this is our site plan here, as you can see. Lay did a tremendous job on making it a good visual for you all to see what we're working with. The blue is the offices, the black is the parking, the yellow is the residential, and the green is the open green space and recreational areas. And then as you see in the brown, we have the community center, we have Victorian Row, and then we have Newark dry goods. This area here in Lay, coming up, will go more into detail, but this is the supermarket here in the red. and we strategically placed that there so that all the residential in the area can have good walkability to that supermarket. We have 105,000 square feet of amenities with open green space and recreational areas, 42,000 square feet in the community facilities, 82,400 of retail square footage, and then the condo units. This is the high-rise condo building that you see here. It was strategically placed there to look out to the west for residents that would like to see the sunset, and then look out to the east on the other side for residents that would like to see the sunrise. People there will be paying more rent per square foot, so we felt like that was a good strategic position that we put that here on the site plan. The podium apartments that you see around, here's a big podium apartment here. We strategically put that near the YMCA so that people can have that walkability of going to the YMCA with their kids, or the elderly can go there and work out and do other activities that they offer there. And then the office space you'll see is more south on the site. In this area coming up to our main road. We put that there and didn't put it towards the north because we wanted that to be more of a lifestyle community, but we did include this office, and we included a nice green open space there. And the residential, more affordable residential that we put to the west side of the site plan was put there because the university is going that way, and we felt like the students that are at school or just starting their first job could afford those residential units. And then you'll see the office space here on the east side of the site plan, and that main road, when they come out here from their parking, goes down to the central district as well.
Here, this map showing the context of our job site and existing for the existing traffic. The Madison Avenue is a major traffic road for access to the job site to this neighborhood, and also this north-south 9th Avenue. We are envisioning this will be the considered as the main street of the neighborhood. And for the job site, we have 5.5 blocks. And this map shows where is the proposed residential use. It will have two types of apartments. One is podium apartments, and another is for the high income residents with luxury apartments. Here is showing the location of the commercial and the retail. The brown building is historic building. We are going to use this building for supposed to be the community center, and also some for office and neighborhood retails.
And we also provided that community center some area there for the church so that they can have events there as well.
And this map showing the location of the office. Office will be most of the office will be close to the major traffic road, so that can be convenient for people people living out of the neighborhood to go to this or walking in this area. Here is a map showing the open space and the parks. The green space close to the office will be for recreation or for some rest, and then parks close to the church and community center will be events or sports field.
Okay. My partners talked to you about Elmwood in terms of identity and structure. I'm now going to tell you how the vision translates into number. First, our development is very safe financially. As you can see, we make sure that we diversify our investment and we never exceeded our demands. Second, it will yield the profit for the developer of 18.7% and the profit for the city of almost 1.8 million. Third, it will create 1,350 jobs, support to 10% affordable housing policy. Fourth, it will give the opportunity to the resident of Elmwood of enjoying a community center of 36,000 square foot and other outside amenities of over 100,000 square foot. Our main focus was never to maximize profit, but quality of life. However, what if it had been the opposite? Here is our current proposition. And an easy way to boost our revenue would have been to cancel the affordable housing program. As you can see, we will have reached a profit for the city of 2.5 million and a return for the developer of 19.4%. Another approach to that would have been to match the demand for office. To do so, we would have had to build a mid-rise office. But to build that mid-rise office, we would have made sacrifices. First, the first option would have had to, we would not have been able to build a supermarket. So we will make more money, but for the resident, not very practical, no more retails in the town. The second alternative would have been to destroy the Victoria Row building. And in this case, we would have been able to keep our supermarket and to build the mid-rise office. Both of those alternatives give a better return, but they're also more risky in case of volatility for the office market, since we match 100%.
Okay, so we did consider other ways to go about it financially, but when you're developing a community, you do have to consider the people who have been there for years and or decades and centuries like that. So although we didn't pick the highest get back, we do feel like we provided what the community wanted as a whole. The city did make back, you know, we did more than match. They just wanted to match, we made almost 1.8. And we developed a town that has room for growth, and it's bringing in more jobs and things like that. So we felt we did a great job with communicating everyone's needs and compromising. So thank you, and do we have any questions?
All right, 40 seconds left. Good timing. Any questions? Judges first. Give them a moment to. Hi, Noah.
I have a question. I came in late, so maybe I missed this. I didn't see any street names or color key, and I have no idea what I'm looking at.
So if you want to scroll to the site plan? So what you're looking at, yeah, go this one here. So what you're looking at is you're right, there are no street names, but the color coding is that the blue is the office space, the black is the parking, the green is the open space in the recreational areas, and the yellow is the residential. The brown is the historic buildings, and that's about it. So Lay mentioned, and myself, that the university, big university, is that way on this main road here, and the central business district is that way. We didn't go into detail and name the streets.
But they're given on the original plan.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I had to look
The
through your urban
RFP gives
plan.
you that, all that.
Yeah, we just didn't label it on the site plan. I mean, Lay did a great job, in my opinion, on labeling the site plan, color coding it to what is going to be actually on the site plan. He didn't put in the street names because we just didn't want to make it too busy.
Okay, I read the report, that's what I was wondering.
Go for it.
So I have a question. So why do you think that the homeless shelter could not be relocated to the outskirts of the city?
It could be. I mean, we were just in charge of Elmwood. We could have relocated, but for us, we will have to sacrifice the green space, and we wanted to keep that green space. If it were just a matter of money, we would have made more money doing the shelters and none.
Do you think that if you were in a city presentation with all these stakeholders, including people advocating for the homeless, they will probably like to, I mean, they will scream about it, but at least if you had given them an option showing what the finances would be or why not, rather than just striking it out.
Well, we internally went back and forth on whether we should have the homeless shelter or not. Ultimately, it was more of a marketing decision that we wanted to have the luxury apartments here in this high rise. And then we also wanted the people that came there to feel comfortable living in the community. So we ended up just deciding as a team to knock down the homeless shelter. But as I mentioned before, we could have put a big office building over there where that open green space is in front of the church. Instead, we've made it an open green space. The neighborhood liaison, Armando, is going to talk to the church and say, hey, on the weekends you can have fundraisers here, you can have events, you can have soup kitchens. But we just decided not to keep the homeless shelter there. They could relocate it outside of the city limits. That wasn't anything that had to do with us, but we did go back and forth as a team on that, so it wasn't an easy decision.
Another reason for that site is the historic site have some memory to the neighborhood, and we want to make this redeveloped site is more compatible and has some historic memories or sense of place.
Hugh, what is your position in the team? No, what's your position in the team?
Site plan.
Yeah, site plan.
Site plan.
Yeah.
And Armando, you are?
Neighborhood liaison.
Okay, yeah, because it was not clear.
Yeah, I'm the marketing director. Miriam's the financial analyst. Lay is the site planner. Armando is the neighborhood liaison, and L'Oreal is the city liaison.
Just tying into the whole homeless perspective and just ethics in general. Sitting back in the as a board perspective or just the community sitting here listening to your presentation, it seems like you guys don't have the regard at all for the homeless. Like, where are they supposed to go?
We gave affordable housing.
Affordable housing and homeless, two different things. Homeless can't afford affordable housing. I see you provide a lot of green space. Is that where the homeless are going to end up sleeping? Because that's likely what's going to happen.
That'll have to be managed as it actually comes to fruition. I don't know the answer to that question, but as I said, we did give that open green space to the church there to have events and to have fundraisers, maybe even to have job fairs so that the homeless can get a job and not be homeless anymore.
I saw that the church was willing to actually take in homeless and be creating a new shelter for them. Did you guys not take that into consideration?
We took that into consideration that, the church did have the fund to build a shelter on their own, and they just wanted the space. But as a team, we all agreed that a shelter for redevelopment in a neighborhood that's not too big, having a shelter the size that they wanted, it's just, we didn't think it'd be a very nice thing to have in a neighborhood like this. Because it's a historic district. The Elmwood Alliance was very adamant on having the homeless shelter taken out, and we agree with them. I agree with them specifically because it's a redevelopment, and we want to redevelop it. We don't want to keep the old. Right? We understand that we could have redeveloped the homeless shelter, but then we would have kept the homeless, and we want to get. I understand it's a very hard thing to say, but we didn't want the homeless in the redevelopment. But yeah, we could probably relocate them outside the redevelopment, but that wasn't part of the discussion in any way.
So let me ask you a question. So I've been working on this about 6 weeks now. Do you as a team really want to develop this?
Sure. It looks like a pretty good development.
All right. I don't feel that level of excitement then. You're proposing right now, this is a criticism about presentation style, and not about the content per se, is you're presenting a multi-million-dollar, multi-block impact on a community that asks you for a bid, or the city asks you for a bidding process. This is a very calm, very slow, almost sleepy presentation where I really don't get the feel that you want to have that bite, that energy, that excitement, that enthusiasm to make that bid and win this game. That sums up my comment pretty much on the presentation. I think in stylistic, your guys are great, the visuals are great. We had mock-ups last week. You improved from that a little bit with the bouncing back and forth. But last week you have been hungry. Today is like, is it food coma at 1 p.m. or what? Again, technical improvement, enthusiasm. It seems like you're like, this is the last 10 minutes of this class and we're done with it. That was very, very disappointing on that point.
We've been a team for over 6 weeks now. And
I think you're acting good.
And we've
as a
met
team.
on this project a lot. If our presentation doesn't have excitement in it, maybe we're, a little nervous, and apologize for that. But
It's a Saturday.
we have met on this many times. We have done a lot of mock-ups. We have changed buildings. We've changed parking. We've
Sean,
taken out
I did
green
not
space.
criticize the team.
No, I'm just
and the team
defending us
efforts.
as a team. I think that we do believe in this as a site plan, and we all gave our opinions as to where everything goes. And this, even though this is just a 20-minute presentation, there's been hours put into this, and we feel really good about it. So.
I totally understand that. But I said this as a more personal comment here is, I'm a little bit surprised that you are not as enthusiastic as you have been over the past few days and weeks with this project. So it's just an observation. Technically terms, presentation was great, I think. Yeah? But that was like, where's the energy? I understand, it's a hard business. It's a hard project. I like this project because it actually causes friction in the team. Yeah? It's not as complex and complicated as a real-world example, but a little bit more fire, guys. The role-playing setup is to get the bid from the city and make money with this. That's what I meant with. That's the missing point.
Okay.
Huh?
I have a comment on the actual write-up. Just a suggestion. I was kind of skimming through, and there's a part here where you talk about what you want the project to be, and you use the word hope. You don't hope that things are gonna come out all right. Like, we hope all this will create. You gotta be sure, because that's what you're selling. So I know that maybe you're trying to convey the fact that, well, we don't know everything and all that, but at that moment, you gotta come out as Superman, and you gotta say, according to what we know, this will produce this, and let us, or the city, then decide if you're right or not. But you cannot be hoping that you're gonna receive millions of dollars from the city to spend for 3 years building something to hope it comes out okay. So.
Well, we have like 40 seconds left. Anyone from the audience want to have a comment? Questions? Steve? Steve? Oh, go ahead, Judson.
I was just to say the one thing I did really like was when you guys broke down like the different options. I thought that was really good. I really liked that, how you guys said, oh, we could have gone this, and this.
Oh yeah.
That was
Speaking of
that
that,
was
I made
good.
that note.
That was good.
You
I made
broke
that
this
note.
down by function, not block by block. By function. This is the very first time in all those years we have done this exercise where the team's actually going in and breaks down visually in the presentation by function, not by block. I'll
Yeah,
really like
and
that.
Lay put a lot of work into that.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why we did that is because we realized that we've been looking at this for 6 or 7 weeks, but this is your first time seeing it. So breaking it down block by block was to make it simplified for you guys to understand.
It was also an option, it was to show that we weren't all for profit and that we weren't considering people as much as we can. So we could have came out with way more city return, which would have been my benefit as the city liaison. But, you know, in real life you have to, if you're gonna care about a community and the people, you have to sacrifice certain things. So we took a cut with finances to be able to supply the city more what they wanted for well-being things.
Steve, go ahead.
Kind of tying up all the comments here and just very top level in general. You know, I think when you guys are doing the presentation itself, you guys you need to sell yourselves, your team, and also your plan. I didn't really see the story. I didn't really get sold on the whole pitch. You know, if you guys were presenting and you had your different topics as different components of the plan or different people, we would have had some pictures in between each one of the different topics to kind of get a sense of what you were talking about. Like, for example, the park areas, the skate park, which you're not doing. kind of showcase where they were and why they wanted them and what locations. We didn't really see the plan until you got into the site plan section, the marketing section. In the marketing section, you did a good job explaining why you put things in different places. But going back to Noah's comment, there wasn't a color code. You got to assume the people in the audience have no idea what they're looking at. They never picked up the report or the plan. I noticed that also in the report, there was no color coding. I didn't know what I was looking at. I had to go back to the report to kind of cross-reference. However, the sequencing was good. I liked how you guys sequenced the report. You talked about the issues up front, and then you got into the site plan, and then how the financials tied it all together and how your plan actually worked from a financial standpoint. Back to the options as well. The options were great. You provided different options. At first, I was taken back. We wanted to hear your proposal, not just here's a la carte for the one you want. But then, it was summarized at the end, more so why it was you showed it, why it was you made your decision. So it all got tied up at the end very well. So the sequence was good, and the options and the way it got tied up at the end was good. So good job on that.
Thank you.
All right, next group.
I was just trying to defend our team, that's all. Because we did put a lot of.
That's fine. Okay, City Sphere. Good.
I'm glad you like it.
You guys ready? Judges ready? Give them a moment, they're still writing. You guys ready?
Yeah.
All right, go.
Welcome. My name is Cole Bohr, and I am a partner in City Sphere, and this is our take on the Elmwood development project. Before we go any further, I want to let my partners also introduce themselves.
And my name is Judson. I'm going to be taking over kind of the site planning and also the city.
My name is Jose, and I'm in charge of the financial analysis of this development.
All right, so this is the basic breakdown of our presentation, just so that you can kind of get in bite-sized pieces, and this is what we'll be speaking about today. So first, we're going to jump into the vision, really because that gives us the purpose and direction of our project. Then go into the financial overview so that you can really understand on a concrete level, monetary level, why this makes sense. Then Justin's going to jump into the city layout and why we decided to build it out that way, and go into the site planning. And then briefly touch on the city goals. And then as the neighborhood liaison, I will be taking over the neighborhood goals and then be passing it on to Jose as a financial analyst to kind of sum it all up in terms of financials, and then have the conclusion. So for starters, the vision statement. And I just want to preface this and say that this is, we understand the importance of this. As I said, it's the direction and the trajectory of the project. This is probably our 4th or 5th rendition of the vision, and this is what we ended up coming up with. And also, we wanted to make sure that I was super concise, because it's easy when it comes to vision and mission statements, just throw a bunch of words out there that sound nice. So this is what we came up with. Our vision is to elevate the lives of Elmwood by providing opportunity to the revitalization of the city's culture and identity. And what does that mean? So for us, that means being able to provide a healthy development that not only makes money, but also enhances the lives of the residents, and just produces an overall better quality of life for them.
So before I go into the block-by-block allocation and give you more of a detailed explanation of the financials, I want to give you a brief overview of our financial performance. As you can see on the top left, the total market value for this project is a little over $143 million. And our total expenses in construction, absorption, land cost is almost a little bit under $120 million, and leading our total developer profit to $24.28 million, and that translates into 20.8% rate of return for our development.
So I'm just going to grab this. I'm switching back and forth. This is going to be basically our site plan of everything. We kind of laid it out for you. I'm going to kind of go in it step by step on the next slide, but I'm going to be moving back and forth so I can use this to kind of see what I'm saying. So essentially the site planning goals, the ones that we wanted to follow, was number one, we wanted to make sure that it was compatible with the surrounding neighborhoods. That meant that everything around it that we did research on, there's a lot of residential, a lot of office, we wanted to make sure that it was adaptable. The next is we wanted to understand traffic patterns. We wanted to place, all of our certain sites in a way that made sense. For example, where we placed the Q-Mart here in the parking, we moved it down in this area over here, essentially so that the traffic wouldn't get jammed. Also, originally we had an office here, we're placing it in a way to where people would be able to move through these streets a little bit easier. As far as keeping a center and a focal point, we did put our most expensive site here in the middle. That's our luxury building. That's also the highest. As far as office, we try to keep it pretty centralized in this area over here. And then as it comes out, we put the parks in the kind of outer sections. And also the Q-Mart, even though it is a large site, it is a little bit closer to the ground. It's only a couple levels. We put that one kind of in the outer skirts as well. And then the size and shape of the buildings was just kind of where we placed everything as far as that. And then again, going back to maximizing views from all areas, it comes back to the focal point. We really didn't want to put a bunch of high buildings in one area. We wanted to make sure that there was a view and there was a way of sunlight coming in to the city in all directions. And then going to the city goals. So our city goals were one, we wanted to preserve as many historical buildings as we could. The only one that we did remove was the homeless shelter. So going back, we did leave the other two historical buildings here and here. We just took out the homeless shelter. Again, we took out that homeless shelter really because we wanted to decrease crime. We wanted to make this downtown central living, very pleasing for people. We wanted to create that sense of culture in the middle, a sense of place. That being said, we also wanted to generate more money for the city so that they could take care of this crime issue in another way with the future with more opportunities. As far as population, same thing as the layout that ties into site planning. We didn't want to place too many high traffic buildings in one area. So we did kind of, as you can see, where we placed these buildings, we placed them kind of scattered out so that it wasn't the same type that everybody would be moving towards. And then the last is we wanted to generate money for tax. We wanted to generate the city as much money as possible so they could put that money back into the parks, back into homeless shelters or whatever that is that will help the city in the future. So that's it on the city goals. I'm going to hand it over to the neighborhood.
All right, so I'm the neighborhood liaison, and I'm just going to touch on what Judson was speaking about also, because it kind of ties in to the neighborhood as well. We really were focused on the Neighborhood Alliance and really catering to what they wanted, and so that ties into our first, which is to preserve Elmwood's historic identity. We did so by keeping and repurposing the Victorian Row building and the York Striker building, as opposed to just knocking it down and having a blank canvas and then trying to generate some type of new value or new felt value. And then coming to the second, this also played a major role for the Neighborhood Alliance. They definitely wanted to know that the property values would have anticipated appreciation, and because of the current downward trajectory of the Elmwood district, they were just concerned that their potential home values would be diminished by a lesser quality of life, so people not wanting to go there. And the way we're able to increase the property's value was by providing high quality product, like our townhouses, our podium apartments, the luxury condos, and then also providing the retail that I'll touch on and office space. And then it ties directly into providing high quality education and creating a safer place for the citizens. We did this by also creating a safer place, which would thus increase the facilities and the neighborhood, producing a better environment for learning for the youth. And again, we don't feel that, so we did remove the homeless shelter, but that doesn't mean that we don't see value in it. We just don't know if that value is best served in our area, maybe, as you said prior, putting it on the outskirts of our district. And then finally, to provide affordable retail services. So as you saw, we placed the Q-Mart on Madison Street, which is the busy street, so that it would have the most traffic. And what that does is it provides the basic necessities to the citizens in close proximity, and then it also obviously provides income for the city. And then on top of all that, they also committed to donating new technologies to the community center as well. So I'm going to pass it on to Jose for the financials.
Okay, well, as a financial analyst, I'm going to give you a breakdown of the different types of allocation that we did throughout the city. First, we have the residential allocation. It covers 30% of our total development area. Cities here, as a team, we decided to not offer affordable housing in our development. As you can see in this number right here, this is our total market value for residential allocation. And it comes out to a total profit of $10,024,000. And I'm going to explain to you how it all ties in together to the total amount of revenue and how each allocation contributes to the total revenue. In residential allocation in particular, contributes 31.83% of our total revenue. So it's a big chunk of our, of our total revenue as a team. You can go to the next slide. Our office allocation is our biggest chunk of the whole pie, let's say it that way. So it covers 30% of our total development area, and it produces $17.6 million worth of profit. And you can see right here, this is the percentage of total revenue that office provides in our development, 56.11%. These are our construction costs, and this is our total market value. And you can see over there is a graphic representation of the different types of office building that we're going to be allocating in the development. Go to the next slide. Our retail allocation only covers 8% of our total land area, and it provides a total revenue of 12.6%, a profit of nearly $3.8 million, and you can go to the next slide. The amenities is a very small percentage of our land development. We're only going to be developing a park in Block 5 and basketball courts or sports courts in Block 3. Obviously, these amenities do not don't generate revenue per se, but this initiative is supportive of community inclusion. We want our residents to feel like they're surrounded by friends and not just by neighbors, and we feel like these amenities do that for the community. Total cost of development for these amenities is going to be $200,000, which are already accounted for in the final financial summary that I gave you earlier. And it only covers 2% of our total land area, or 20,000 square feet if you want to look at it that way. Now, the community facilities allocation, specifically talking about the York dry goods, is only 10,000 square feet in size. And we are going to be taking a loss of $5,000 on this. This is a simple graphic representation of the different types of parking that we're going to be having in the development. Parking does take 30% of our total land area. It is a big chunk as well. But keep in mind that we do have office and retail by a long shot. It's the biggest allocations of our development. And the total number of spaces is listed right here, 1,190. Next slide. And to summarize all, this is the revenue chart. Pretty much, this is what everything looks like in terms of total revenue and how much each allocation covers in the total number. So office, residential, and retail make up this amount of revenue, and the graphic representation as to the amount of revenue that they contribute to is represented over there on the right-hand side. And now to the city revenue. I understand that it is important for the city to make money out of this project, so we developed a financial plan where the city will generate $1,047,000 in tax revenue every year, and in a 10-year span that would turn into $10,470,000. This project, all in all, provides a net value of $6.1 million to the city. So it's a very valuable project for the city itself.
So again, just to conclude everything real quickly, back to the vision statement, we really wanted to generate the most amount of income to not only us but the city by still trying to follow as much as that we possibly could by making the city happy, as well as following all of the certain criteria that we were looking to do.
All right, 2.5 minutes left. All right.
So,
Go ahead.
all right. I like the presentation. I like the slides. I like how you present it in general. How did you get, one thing that I have when I read the report and now is that you just mentioned for example, 20.8 IRR, the return, and you mentioned the value to the city of about 6.15 million, but I never really see the breakdown, how you get to that number.
So 6.1 million comes from the money they'll be making from the sale of the land, which is $6 million,
Okay,
and the $145,000 is the added value, and that makes up for $6,145,000.
okay. So did you have that explained in the report?
I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah.
Okay, because when I read it, it was just a statement. So what I'm trying to say is, you're stating a fact, but whoever is reading it needs to be able to follow the steps of how you get there. So that's one thing. And then the second thing was, I wasn't really sure by reading the report if the 6.15 was the value to the city, I mean the
Net value.
right, or you were referring to, you used net value, was that like a net present value? So I was confused as far as, is this like a net present value calculation, or is it, is it different wording? I wasn't sure of that, so that created some confusion. Let's see. Oh, and in the actual report, you missed the executive report. So you have an executive report. I mean, you have a page called the executive report. But in the executive report, what you have is the vision and, yeah, the vision statement and the mission statement. And in the executive report, we also want to see some kind of summary of, this is the project in miniature. I mean, if you don't have time to read the whole thing, get this. And what will happen is, what happened to a lot of us, I guess, well, it's not the only one. You're reading, it's a lot to get through. And we don't know all the details. You've been working on this for 6 weeks or whatever. So I went to, some reports did not have the executive report, and in your case, I went to the executive report, I didn't get anything. Because knowing the vision is great, sounds good, but I don't get the gist of, okay, what is it that I want to be listening to? So those are not criticisms. I mean, they are, but it's things that you just need to tweak.
It should have been in there for whatever reason, I guess, when we turned it in, that version didn't have it, because I'm gonna go back as soon as this is over and see why that wasn't there.
Got it, okay.
On the presentation style, I like the way you guys use the use of the graphs and visuals. Those are great tools that you guys implemented. I like the way they're kind of laid out and everything. One criticism I will say is the color selection. Black background is always a negative. My business partner here will kind of give you his experience and his presentation before, but when you see that black background, it gives you more of a gloomy feel versus bright and energetic, and it's a lot harder to follow that way. Now, I saw you saw the white font, you use a white font and everything, but still, the black background is kind of, intrusive, I call it. One of the biggest downfalls in your presentation and your report, you guys didn't highlight any market data. Demand, what you guys are putting out there, is that going to be absorbed in the market? We have no idea. Also, I saw that you guys went with no affordable housing. You guys have significant returns to the city, the investors, but this proposal isn't just financial. It's also meeting the needs of the community and also society as a whole. So, you're providing the Q-Mart. Where are the people who are going to work at the Q-Mart going to live? So you got to think through those things in your presentations. Now, this may be a great financial play, but also in the eyes of the city staff and officials, they're going to ask those questions because they're not going to get voted in the next election if the community is pissed off at them, per se. They're all getting gentrified and kicked out of the area. In addition to that, you guys did get rid of the homeless shelter. You explained it, why, the crime rates and such, so it was a good justification for that. So you had a story as to why you did it, so I did appreciate that. In the last piece of criticism I'll give was the sequence of the presentation, and the report I think was a little quirky as well. You guys should definitely tell the story first and then just sum it all up at the end, the financials and just a summary. You guys talked about the financials first, went to the site plan, and then all the concerns. It should have been the opposite way. Let everybody understand, again, people sitting here in front of you may not know what the issues are in the city. You may be in a different department. You may not know the other people across the table is concerned. You want to hear all that first, get a sense of what the problems are, how you address them, what your plan plan is about, and then how the financials bring it on to play. So the sequence is a little out of whack, but you know, overall, it was a good job.
Would you have preferred to see no preliminary breakdown of the financials at all, like in the beginning?
In the report, I think is very important. In the presentation, you know, you gave me the financials, and as you were going through it, I kind of already forgot why it was you got there. And towards the end, you kind of talked more about allocations of the mixes and stuff, which was you know, I appreciated very much, but then I already lost track of where the financial came to play. I know you summarized at the end as the total values and stuff, but the financial side, I think, should be more of like the bringing it all together. It's like, here's our awesome plan, and here's all the money you're going to make with it.
So let me chime in here before Noah comes with his comments. I taught you well, Stephen, when it comes to the criticism of visuals. Same thing here with the contrast on the light greens and light blues. You got to be aware of that you might face bad projectors. So when you look at the video, there might be one or two of those graphics you don't even see because of contrast. I like that presentation. I somewhat not disagree, but go the other way around. I would like to see more graphics to make it more livable. Graphics as in community style pictures. You guys struggled with personnel on this project because you did not have someone who puts you in place for the missing functions of a typical 5-people team. And I think in that context you did a brilliant presentation bouncing back and forth between those dimensions. That also, I think, explains why you're doing this really bold move and be heavy on the financials, break down through the financials, and making the point that you're going to be a nice developer, but you're squeezing out the last drop out of that lemon that is possible. Yeah? And that is borderline to the social goals that are in this RFP and in this role play setup. Granted, you did not have necessarily a person, but a role to divide up between you guys in terms of how you defend those social values or community goals. Yeah? That is probably a, don't want to say setup you guys for failure, but a less unfortunate setup in the team strength by 3 people. We had handicapped teams with short notice fail out or not even from the beginning. I'm very pleased what I can see here, what you guys did deliver in 6 weeks, 3 people, and all 3 pretty much brand new to the program. That's a huge learning curve. For that, I applaud you. All right. Noah?
That was one of the questions I actually had on the report was why are there only 3? Did someone drop out?
Yeah.
Well, one guy showed up for the first day and then he dropped out the next day.
And that's what I noticed 5 on some, and then
Yeah.
you guys had 3.
And again,
And that's
6
one
weeks
reason
into the
marketing
program.
wasn't, really compiled, because that was one part that
Right.
we should have added a little bit into it, looking back, but that's one of the reasons that it wasn't really, touched pretty well. So we didn't work with those.
So my comments are just gonna kind of pertain to what you've got laid out here. I like what you did with the parking, to not back up the main street.
Mhm.
I think it was creative to have kind of parking lots off of individual streets there.
Mhm.
I don't think it's okay to have 0 affordable housing and to be getting rid of the homeless shelter. I think we should probably have something, some sort of medium there. And then it seems like if you want to get rid of the people that can't afford to live there, why do you have a Q-Mart? I would have gotten rid of that. The retail that's existing there, there's not much. And if people have money, you want them to spend money. And I think I saw on the slide there was negative absorption, correct?
Yeah.
So that's going to be a problem because you're going to drive everyone's property value down because supply and demand, it's kind of, basic there. But overall, I like the general.
All right. Anyone from the teams? All right. Team number 3, diversity. Do I need to adjust the camera because you guys don't want to be in the video? Unless you have practiced that kind of flow in a specific way.
You're strategic.
Alright? Whenever Steve and Danilo are ready, you can go.
I'm gonna have to.
That's fine. Breathe. Breathe. You ready to know? Are you ready? Alright guys, let's go.
All right, good afternoon. We are a diversity development group. This is our redevelopment plan for Elmwood district. So first off, we're going to start with our vision statement. Our vision is to promote economic growth and focus on historical preservation, to build and restore communities where change is needed. First of all, we're going to jump into our success with that vision. Our company had a 16.7% return. We created 1,500 jobs. We promoted over $3 million in city revenue total, and we did promoted and prompted historical rehab. Now we're going to go to Kenny with the market.
Alright. So our overall vision was to convert the Elmwood district into the new Elmwood village, focusing our attention to the revitalization of the 9th Avenue corridor and the main thoroughfare of Madison Street. The 9th Avenue corridor, we focus on the York Dry Goods buildings, which was listed on the National Registry. One of the reasons why we wanted to preserve it is because we like the character. It was a blight to the actual area. However, we noticed the charm that it had from the outside, and we wanted to preserve the old department stores as well too. Another area of focus was the old Victorian row. Noting back that the Midland Bank used to use it as its corporate headquarters and also had a branch out of there as well too. It added to the community character, and it exemplified the character of the community that we wanted to evolve into. And there's also a strategic location, being that it was in a main street as well. So we decided to add in 20,000 square foot of retail space, naming the actual retail property the Elmwood Plaza. In this property, we saw that it would increase the city's taxes and increase the jobs by 1,500, mainly entry level. But since there was a university down the street, we thought it was a good place to put it, with easy access along the 9th Avenue corridor as well too. We also decided to introduce two luxury towers, Phoenix and the Madison Tower. These two high-rise towers would feature 96 luxury condo units. It would feature the latest amenities, covered parking, and green space for those in the neighborhood. It also had easy access to the 9th Avenue and Madison Street public transportation and trolleyway as well. Additionally, we also designed two mid-rise office structures. Features the latest environmentally friendly materials and design, covered parking. The covered parking was actually unique because we thought about convertibility towards future use. If the area demanded more capacity as to office towers or residential units, we figured we can actually use these structures to actually convert it into whatever is needed. And we lastly added some market rate units and affordable housing through the podium apartments and townhouse structures as well too.
Oh, sorry. All right, as I said earlier, my name is Connor, and I'm the site planner. So first of all, we're just going to start with an overview of the site plan itself. As you can see, it is broken down over here, so now I'm going to go in block by block to describe everything. So first off, block one, we used townhouses over here. There's 4 of them, and then 2 podium apartments on Madison Street. And then we incorporated 2 low-rise business offices along 8th Avenue right here, or 9th Avenue, because we wanted 9th Avenue to be the main corridor throughout the neighborhood. Block 2 is our high density. We included 2 high towers here, luxury condos, with 2 high-rise office buildings with 2 urban parks, as you can see here and here. And again, these office buildings reflect back across the street from the ones that are existing there to make 9th Avenue look cool. And there are also, these tall buildings here are correspondent to the existing conditions of the office buildings across the street. We wanted to keep the scale of the buildings the same there so that there's no spot inside the neighborhood where there is a tall building for some reason. Block 3, this is our first historical preservation with York Dry Goods. We included 60% off or 70% office and 30% retail. And then there is a supermarket as well right here to accommodate the needs of the neighborhood. Block 4 is another historical redevelopment with the redevelopment of Victorian Road, which is going to be 30% retail, 40% office, and 30% nonprofit. And then as well, we have 4 podium apartments there to accommodate any residents. Block 5, we do have a small shopping center here to accommodate everybody on that block and across the street as well. We thought it would be a good idea to incorporate some townhouses around the YMCA to create a nice little community there. And then Block 6, we did incorporate the skate park here. It is the first one on the left, and then we increased the park another 10,000 square feet to the right, and then we incorporated 2 more townhouses there. Now we're going to, and then as I touched on before, the urban parks, they are in between the 2 towers. We thought it would be a good idea to incorporate these to allow people to get out of their offices or their high-rise dense urban living to get some fresh air, everything like that. And then the skate park here, and then this is the additional park that we want to add. Now we're going to go to Alex for financials.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Alex Batcher. I'm going to be reviewing the financial analysis for Diversity Development Group. So when taking a look at the development model, the main thing that we wanted to look at was this, the 3-year hold period, because once we went over the 3-year hold period for the absorption rates, we would not be capturing any of that additional revenue. Plus, we would be building extra office buildings that we would be capturing that revenue. So I really wanted to break down the years to absorb when looking at the financial model. And as you can see, our first top 3 here, that are hovering right around the 3 range. These 3 product types are our highest yielding for the developer profit. So what we did is we kind of infilled that first, put all of our profit type property classes into the development model, and then we trickled that in with the rest of the property types. So then what I did is I broke it down by 3 different categories. The first category is the most beneficial to the developer. And like I mentioned, those were our 3 top property asset classes. Then the second category that I analyzed was checking which property types were beneficial to both the market, the community, and the developer. So more on that kind of average scale. So a prime was actually retail, and we were able to, with our development model, we were able to create exactly 3 years of retail. So that really maximized our profit on that. And then we included market townhomes, which were average to both the community and the developer. And then our final section is what's really beneficial to the community. And that's where we included the skate park, 20,000 square feet of green space. And then we also included 30% of Victorian Row as nonprofit, and of any of our market rate units, or excuse me, any of our podium apartments or townhouses, where 30% of those were allocated to affordable housing. And with all this, we were able to achieve a 16.7% return to the developer. And with our substantial amount of office type properties that we were developing, low rise and mid-rise office properties, we were able to generate over 1,400 office jobs, bringing our grand total to over 1,500 jobs total. And then next slide. So that's great. We're beneficial for the developer. We're beneficial to the community by providing jobs and green spaces. Now let's take a look. Are we beneficial to the community? And we were able to actually well exceed the community's expectations. They gave us a subsidy of $11.4 million, and we were able to generate it was like about over $14 million in revenue. So they're actually profiting about $3.5 million, and that includes our 30% nonprofit to Victorian Row and 30% of all townhouses and podium apartments allocated to the affordable housing. Now I'm going to give it to Andrew. He's our neighborhood liaison.
Thank you. So as neighborhood liaison, it was my job to kind of take in all the desires of the neighborhood and, and try and find a compromise between all of them to come with the best solution with the team. So I'm going to go, each group, and so we understand what they what they wanted from us as a development group. So the Neighborhood Alliance, they, really wanted the preservation of historical buildings. They didn't want they didn't want the homeless shelter. They didn't want affordable housing. But they wanted parks, and they didn't want the large Q-Mart or the high-rise buildings in the neighborhood. Jobs and Justice, opposite side of the spectrum. They wanted the homeless shelter. They wanted affordable housing. They wanted entry-level jobs, basic retail services, a community center, and office space. Grace Memorial, along the same lines, but they just wanted the homeless shelter to stay. And Ramon's going to talk about that in a little bit, but we ended up not including that in our proposal, but he's going to touch on how we took care of that. And Skate On, all they wanted was a skate park, and we did provide that to them in the northern part of the site. And finally, Pro Arts, the nonprofit office space. We were able to accommodate them in Victorian Row with 18,000 square feet of nonprofit office space. And I'm going to hand over to Ramon, he's our city liaison.
As a city liaison, I had to go to many city council meetings to hear what the city's demands and checklists were. So the city wanted to profit. They wanted to take the Elmwood district into the future. But they had a few issues that we had to overcome and a couple challenges. Like one was the homeless shelter. There's a couple challenges with it. One, it wasn't producing any income. And two, it was the center of all the crime and just a blight on the city. They wanted it removed. We had a friend in another district who already developed some transitional houses for homeless people to go into and also gain apartments instead of being in a shelter, so they can actually transition to be performing members and be able to be homeowners in the near future. It's like a housing first program that they were able to go to like on the west side of the city. Anyhow, to get the program started, the city wanted to preserve York dry goods and Victorian Road. They keep two of the jewels of the city, two of the landmarks, the historical landmarks that pretty much got everything going in Elmwood district. So we were able to do that by first removing the homeless shelter, placing them, not displacing them, and being able to start the rehabilitation and also start the process of generating income. Now, along with generating income, we decided we brought in some luxury condos and commercial office buildings. These are two big items for property taxes that the city was looking for to generate some higher end property taxes. As well as, simultaneously, we want to build and also under construction new shops and a grocery store, big enough grocery store to fit all the other city's needs. It was a need for the city to have a grocery store, being that they had to travel long distances to get food. So we needed to place a grocery store there with a pharmacy inside and other needs that the city, city had wanted as well. This will also attract other retailers, big trendy stores that are for the young adults who are moving into our city. We have a nice influx. At the same time, we mentioned it creates over 1,500 jobs for these two models for our city, which also brings in a lot of sales tax. So we bring in property taxes and sales tax, two things that the city wants to tackle. Next, with the influx of people that have been coming into the Yorktown city and the district of Elmwood, we created some mixed income housing along with affordable housing. The mixed income housing, some executives will not want to live in the middle of town, so we just want to live on the outskirts. So we have some mixed income developments, as well as affordable housing. Not just affordable, but attainable. We have most people look at affordable housing as being far away. We have affordable housing close enough within the access points of the town to be able to live, work, and play within the same community without having to go large distances to try to get to work and home and shop. So we believe that in our model, that we tackled all of the issues that the city wanted. They wanted to create income and revenues with new construction, revitalizing old construction, bringing in new charming sites for our new residents to come and see, and also bring in some new life for us, saving the parks, and what else? Basically just bringing in income. So with our plan and our design, it was produced over 1,500 jobs. We bring in the revenue within 10 years over $3 million, and it's a pretty balanced plan for residents to live, work, and play all within the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Time is up. How many slides do you still have on this one? That's it. That's it?
So, I like the use of visuals that you had. I think that was excellent. You told the story, even presenting what was there before, all the crumbling buildings and all that, and then the new things. I think that's excellent. I had already make a note here that I was able to follow the financial report when I read it. I like to. At the end, it's a numbers game, and that's what I gravitate to. So besides all the marketing and all that, you go to the numbers to see if the numbers make sense, and if you can read it and if you can at least see where you're getting the information from, it makes sense. When you presented it, it also made sense. You did not shy away from certain problems that were obvious, and then you looked for solutions to it, so that was good. The breakdown of the stakeholders' demands, I think that was excellent. I think that helps. When you're on this side, you're always thinking, well, but they didn't do anything with the, for example, the homeless shelter or with the Qmart. They didn't do this, that. But there's a reason for that. The fact that you brought all that and just laid it out there. These people wanted this, these people wanted that, and of course no one is going to get everything. But at least it kind of gives us a moment to pause and say, well, that is a problem, and you cannot get everything you want. So then we're more open to see what is the solution that you're presenting. And that was good. The solution to the homeless with your friend, was that's totally that was not in the that was thinking out of the box, right? Or was that something else?
That was a sneaky attempt to be,
I like that.
I want to know on that, to be honest. I want to know if you made that up based on comments earlier heard, or is that...
It's in the write-up.
Good. I missed that in the write-up, but that's a sneaky way to justify elimination of structures.
I like that. I like that too.
I wrote down nice pitch, but it's a sneaky way.
That is thinking out of the box, so that was good. That was excellent. And then you also mentioned several times what was the benefit to the city. And I want to say, and this goes to all the groups, even when it's to the advantage of the developer, you always want to put it in there's got to be something good for the other party. And that's what the other party cares about. So when you present it, put it like that this is even if it's to your benefit, this is what's benefiting you. Now a couple of negatives that I want to say too. So I know you're nervous. When you started, you were swinging your arms, and I was just hoping that you were going to grab something up in the air. Just be conscious of that. When you start, you always want to start with a bang. Like in a concert, you go with boom, something that catches the eye and summons the attention. So pay attention to that. And this goes for all the groups. and I know this is hard because it happens to me too, stay away from passive language. We decided to do, we thought, we're going to do this. This is what we're proposing. You know, active now language versus the passive language. It's when you're there and you say it, you don't see the difference. When you're here and you hear it, it's like, it's a total different vibe. So, other than that, good job.
Yeah, tying into that last part, I mean, that goes to show confidence. You take the ownership of it and you say, like, this is what we're doing, it's for a reason, it's because, all right, you guys really firmly believe in which proposal is, versus we're going to do this, we think we're going to do this. So, you know, there's a lack of confidence that goes with that. So, you know, overall, the presentation, you guys sold it. You know, you have the pictures in there. I was looking, you know, I'm not the type of, I'm a finance guy, and I'm not the one to get sold by pictures, but a lot of the community is. And when I'm reading this, I get excited by looking at the product type, the high-end luxury condos you're providing, the townhomes, the blighted areas that you're going to rehab. You show pictures of that and your intentions and strategy of redeveloping and enhancing those areas, keeping the historical preservation. You guys sold it, so that was a great pitch. You guys did a great job on that. The summary at the very beginning was great too. You guys very just quick recap. Hey, this is what we're about. This is what we were able to do for you guys, and you guys went with the story. I do think the story was a little out of sequence. You know, you should have talked with the city and neighborhood perspectives ahead of the site plan financials again, just kind of tying it all in at the end. Let's see here. And I do like how you guys broke down, you know, the different demand needs for different groups. Like, for example, this is what is more beneficial to the developer in the city versus what's more beneficial to the community, and vice versa. So it was good to get that visual representation of, you know, which specific assets are better suited for which specific returns and criteria. So overall, I think you guys did a good job.
So I have a question, only because you mentioned it. There's a 3-year horizon, correct?
Correct, yeah.
What's the exit strategy, or I
So-
haven't heard anybody really talk about that. I see you guys throwing stuff out there, but I just wanted to know. I'm not sure if it's in the urban plan either.
Yes, okay.
No, it's just a 3-year hold period, Doug.
Right, so where we come in, acquire the land, develop it out, lease it up, and then we sell it after that 3-year hold
Okay,
period,
so
yeah. So
it's not a refinance, it's you're selling all
No,
those
no,
assets.
yeah, exactly.
So have you thought about the impact of having 30% affordable, which will then really impact your exit?
On an exit cap rate, you're saying, or?
Well, there's gonna be all kinds of restrictions that are baked into any type of affordable product.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of the reasons why we kept it to the minimum. It was our lowest distribution when it came to how low it was.
I was just curious, I'm not.
No, that's fine. It's a fair question.
So, what I really liked is the way you started out. You started out in a different way than others before. Arguing with the absorption rate and then moving that into actually an optimization problem is very, very cool. Says the guy who wrote a dissertation on optimization. So, okay, good. Also, I encourage students and teams to break down, let's say, by blocks. It's easier to deliver. You broke down by function and then by block. That was a very interesting combination, particularly when you look at your timing. The timing, you needed 30 more seconds for one more conclusion slide. You're almost like a speech about how this whole works together in a holistic approach to close the deal is great. A little bit faster, because you really like, okay, let me summarize this, but then the visual needs to have a last summary as well, and pretty much copy and paste the first 2 slides you present in the beginning. These are our key facts, the percentage, absorption, etc. And then basically saying, okay, we fulfill these goals, socially comprehensive goals that have been wanted. Yeah? We fulfill this, as in we are the success you're looking for slide. That's the slide, the last slide I'm missing in this presentation. Everything else was beautifully done, executed. Again, the challenge here in this team-based setup as a learning experience is most of you never met before since 6 or 8 weeks ago. literally 8 weeks ago on a Friday afternoon, or Saturday afternoon, I basically said, okay, speed dating, 10 minutes, talk to each other, form groups.
They form their own.
Yeah, and within 10 minutes conversation time. And that is an amazing outcome for 3 folks that have been not in the program and for 2 that are about to graduate in the program. Very interesting mix. The fact that you actually took that name as a team, diversity, reflects your characters, your knowledge in the program, and I think that is a perfect fit. So it was enjoyable to read your report, enjoyable to see the presentation. There are a few things about the report where like casual language and all that, I can share grading notes.
And someone's page got cut off.
Yeah. But also, this is the report where I can say the executive summary is a executive summary. I can't remember in which order I read them, but nicely done. Nicely done. Thank you. Any comments from the students? All right, ready for our last bang?
Been up since 4.
Kiddo?
Huh?
Kiddo?
No, I haven't been
Hey, look, that's $100 bill.
All right. You got the wrong one. No.
That's it.
Girls haven't crossed it. Haven't had my wife's burning it now.
I don't want there. What you want?
You had the stomach bug yet?
Huh?
You had the stomach bug yet?
No. I hope. It's not coming this way.
The girls' stomach bug is family bonding time.
Huh?
If you spend the night sleeping on a pad, yoga pad, on the carpet in the children's bedroom with a bucket next to you, so if she won't make it, she's in the bucket. That's bonding time. I went for 3 major stomach bugs for kindergarten and daycare. But those are goals to remember very well. That's 6 times. All right, you guys ready? Everyone ready? Go for it.
Good afternoon. We are Elmwood Redevelopment Partners, and we are here to present our Elmwood Redevelopment District Plan. We are confident that we've come up with an excellent return on investment for the city, the developer, and we've satisfied the majority of the community needs. Did it die? Just scroll. So our agenda today, we're going to be going through our development objectives, our team expertise, our development proposal, followed by our conclusion. So we read through, we had several objectives for this project. We wanted to satisfy the needs of the city of Yorktown through a generous revenue. We wanted to create a thriving arts district. We noticed that the Central Business District and the University District were on either sides of the Elmwood Redevelopment District. So we really wanted to create an overall excellent place for the entire community to meet. We also wanted to create jobs and have a low absorption rate. And later in this presentation, Brian and Kyle will bring us through and show you guys our absorption rate is exactly where it needs to be. Everything's under 3 years. So we started off, we met with the community members, we took notes, we did a little bit of a design charrette, and we determined the areas that were lacking economic revitalization. Obviously, as a redevelopment district, a lot of things needed to be assessed and redeveloped. So we took notes. Unfortunately, with this PowerPoint, you can't really see the quality of the notes we took, but we outlined, what parts of the neighborhood were requesting certain items based on the letters that were submitted. And this is our project group. So we have a little bit of excellent Photoshop skills, I just want to point it out. That's Juanita right there. Photoshop her in there. So Juanita, she's an architect in real life. She was our site planner. Kyle, he's a financial analyst in real life. He was our financial analyst. Neighborhood liaison, Lily, did a great job with that. I'm an urban planner, I was the city liaison. And Brian was our director of marketing, he promoted himself.
Alright. So the city, Aaron, you want to take my notes?
Okay.
So the city had an important goal, was to create employment opportunities for the neighborhood and city residents. Throughout this development, we were able to create over 1,200 jobs, including 950 office jobs, 310 retail, and 10 community jobs. Another important requirement from the city was to generate tax revenue, in which we were able to generate over $7.6 million of tax revenue, including a sale of $6 million, less city subsidy of $10.8 million, which gave us to a total of a city 10-year return of $2.75 million. After the dust settled, including the $1 million demolition of the homeless shelter, we were able to come out with a 20.1% return IRR, which came out to a 19.7 profit for us development. To the point where we came to housing. We came to a 90-10 split of 10% affordable and 90% market rate. And for amenities, we came to a 9% Parks and Plaza and 2% Sports and Fields.
Alright, hello, my name is Brian. It's important to know that per the RFP from the city, they requested an absorption of under 3 years. We succeeded in doing that by strategically placing our buildings in certain locations. The absorption rate for our residential is sitting at 2.64, and then for our office, it's sitting at 2.68, and lastly for our retail, it's sitting at 2.86. So again, it's all under the 3-year absorption rate that the city originally requested. There are 3 different types of social groups within the Elmwood resident area. We have young professionals which are surging within the local market from the surrounding Yorktown village. We have university faculty and students from the neighboring university who are typically made up of young families as well as the university faculty and the graduate students at the university. We also have a more adaptable social group, which is our empty nesters. They enjoy Yorktown's cultural and civic activities. Now, we have linkages throughout the multiple social groups and social classes. They all link around the city's various green spaces and views. Young professionals radiate towards obviously their place of employment at offices, and they go towards apartment buildings and high-end condos. Whereas faculty and students radiate towards the lower density townhomes for their young families where they have more space to live. Lastly, we have a more adaptable social group, like I said, empty nesters. They don't find any between the apartments, high-end condos, or townhomes as well. They prefer to live in either or. But again, each strategically placed building has a view of green space. Now I'm handing over to Juanita.
Hello, I'm Juanita. When it came to placing a program on the site, we took into consideration 5 different approaches that we felt were important to us. One of the first ones is to allow for the artist presence to come back into the community. We knew this was an important factor to keep in mind. We also provided retail at large and small scale to provide retail for both ends of the spectrum when it comes to the users. It was important to provide low-income housing, incorporate green spaces, and preserve and restore the Victorian Road. So now I'm going to break down the blocks and tell you about the program in each. So for block 1, we provided podium apartments, a low-rise office, neighborhood retail, as well as a park and a plaza. We also kept in mind the fact that we wanted this redevelopment to fit into the community as a puzzle piece. Really looking at the surrounding areas, what was already existing. So the way we placed certain buildings had a lot to do with keeping in mind that there is residential to the west, so we provided residential in this block to the west to kind of create not a boundary, but more of get rid of the line, blur the lines between the blocks. For the second block, or block 3 now has podium apartments, a park and a plaza, office and retail as well. And block 4, we decided to incorporate a high-rise building to cater to the higher end user in the community. A mid-rise office, a neighborhood retail at a smaller scale, as well as a parking plaza. And then for the last 2 blocks, we incorporated townhouses, low-rise office, and for block 6, we also did townhouses and a parking plaza. And then when it came to kind of honing in on what we envisioned for this Elmwood redevelopment, these images all really add the character and the sense of place that we are looking to provide with this redevelopment.
Okay, so we analyzed deeply all the requests from the community. We thought it was very important to include everybody. We wanted to be fair, so we decided to have an evaluation criteria. This criteria is the beneficiaries, the number of people that are requesting this benefit, the alignment with the vision, the value of the request versus cost, the politics, how influential is this group, and then the group of interest, if they influence other people requesting things, and then the financial goals of this program. This is one of the groups, Jobs and Justice. They are low. They say they are not a large group, but they don't really say how many people are in there. And then we have the church that they are helping the 120 homeless people. Jobs and Justice request the homeless stays, but we don't really know if the homeless was in place before the fire. We don't really know how it came there, and it brings crime, and they are requesting just land. So we think the city should work it out differently after the decision is made. Then, can you go back? Okay. So we have we have here a list of requests. They are asking for affordable rental housing. We are pleasing them with 30%. Then they request for the Kmart store, but we think it doesn't really go with the vision and with the mix that we're creating there. So we are proposing to have a Kelly's. Then we are having entry-level jobs. It's about 310 entry-level jobs. We think that this number, I mean, the new people coming and the local people, because they have a university nearby and it's going to be a revival of the city, they should be able eventually to incorporate to the new force of work. Then we have some space for non-profit organization, and then we can go to the next slide. And then we have this group, which is the strongest one, is 800 homeowners that have been there for a long time, and they do contribute to the city. They're taxpayers and voters, and they have middle income. They seem to be very organized, so they might have more political power. They request to preserve the Victorian Row. We have decided that a Victorian Row is a building that costs a lot to be in place, so we've decided to try to keep the face or the facade of the building, but rebuild it or try to build a new building that is very similar to it. It is not considered like a historical structure, and the function in this case and the cost, it seems more valuable for the community than the building itself. There's a lot of low-income people around the area that may not necessarily be that interested. They're renters for what is suggested, and they might not be that into the this initiative as this group. Then we decided that for the skate park we're going to try to incorporate them in the sports center that we're creating with new initiatives for them. Basically because the city is not happy with the idea of them being there for injuries that have happened in the past. And then we have this group of artists, just 12 artists, and they're not even paying rent there, but we are proposing that they take some affordable space in the offices. That way they can contribute somehow and they can remain in the district. So pretty much we've tried to please the community in general with shops and business and public meeting places. They request this, but it's something that is important for everybody. And we also think there might be a group of people that did not request, were not able to propose. And so we've thought of them in general, thinking that the majority of the initiatives are going to be for the community around. We also think that this, we read in the proposal, in the RFP, that this place was the city heart before of the fire, the city center of the district. Not necessarily was residential before, so we consider it that way.
Alright, so in conclusion, we've successfully established an under 3-year absorption rate for every use on the property. We've generated one of our first options. We were only making the city $800,000, and we didn't think that was right or it was going to satisfy the needs of everybody. So we adjusted several things so we could come up with a $2.75 million revenue to the city, 20.1% IRR to the developer. We've satisfied a 10% affordable housing with a 90% market rate. That's typically, you know, with Broward Flex Zones, it is 10% that you either develop, like you donate to affordable housing, or you have to pay a large fee, so we allocated 10%. And we are very confident, and we're really excited to present this to the city of Elmwood. And if you, the city of Yorktown, Elmwood region. So, any questions?
Sure. So, I see that you have, I guess, minimum affordable housing, and that the Pro Arts group wanted to essentially have free, I guess they want to be freeloaders in this instance. I mean, the artist community does not make money. So, in the report I read that you're really trying to kind of emulate a Wynwood or an Asheville, or I forgot which other one it was. Burlington. I just don't know how that's going to happen with 10%.
So that's what we're going to be targeting. I mean, Wynwood is not entry-level artists. It is the best people, some of the best people in the world. So that eventually is what we're trying to target. We don't want the freeloaders, the people who aren't generating revenue. That's not a redevelopment district. A redevelopment district is bringing the people in, the names. You know, we're not going to get the world-renowned names right away, but that's why we want to redevelop it, to bring that in. We foresee that becoming an issue. And we actually allocated, I believe, in our report, between 5,000 to 10,000 square feet. They were asking for 18,000 square feet of free space. That entire block is like somewhere around that footprint. So that's just, I mean, you can't please everybody. So we were trying to come in between to meet the needs of what everybody was requesting, and we did allocate a portion of it to affordable, and hopefully that will help them get back on their feet to start bringing in other outside business to generate the real revenue that they're looking for.
So,
yeah. I thought it was a good presentation. I think pretty much. So, not to downplay other groups, but I made little comments on my file here, and some of the comments I just added to your guys' file was, this is good, this is thoughtful. So I think it translates well to the screen. The only real issue I had was reading. I think it was like the second or third slide.
So I think that it was a much better start. I think from all the groups, I think the strong start is good.
Minus the clipping.
Right, minus the work and the batteries, yeah. The thought was there to start strong. I like the slides. I think that there's good storytelling. So that was good. The breakdown of the users, who's gonna live here, and tying it to the product type, I think that was excellent. And the approach to breaking down with a matrix, the interplay of the different stakeholders, that made me think, including political power. I think that was excellent. That was really, because sometimes you have to think like that. Most people that you get speaking from a community, they're always speaking for the people. And you think that they're speaking for 200,000 people. They may be speaking for 20 people, or 10 people, or 5 people. And they have this big roar. And the fact that you went in and you took the time to actually break it down, I think is a double-edged sword, because you may discount the plight of some people just because they're a few, even though they might have a point. And I think that if you're only based on, but they don't have the political power to do anything, we'll just eliminate it. I think that's wrong, because that's not fair. But at the same time, you have to be conscious that that is a part of the decision making. 10 low-rated artists asking for 18,000 square feet of free space.
Well, basically, they've been living there, not paying any rent,
Exactly.
not contributing either. So
And then they make it, well, we're artists and we're providing it. So I get it.
we
I get it.
basically thought if we give them that, everybody else is gonna come and say, oh, I want that space too. Why
That's
are
right.
they getting it and we're not?
So is it, I guess what I'm saying is, bottom line, is a very good question, this goes for everyone, to ask, who's asking? And really get behind that to do that. My only negative, and let me start with the positive on this, is thank you for giving this extra info. But again, just like some of the other groups, the financial analysis was just a statement. This is what we're getting. We're getting 20.1 IRR, 2.8 to the city. Well, great. How do I know that you know what you know? How do I know what you know and I make a decision on that? So I think that needed to,
Understood.
So one last comment, and it's kind of just to everyone here. It seems, and I know I missed your guys in the beginning, but it seems like your team has 3 people that are actually in the industry or have a role in it. So it's kind of like the team stacked.
Right.
Versus, working with your cohort and kind of teaching them. So I think that gave you an unfair, not that it's unfair, but a distinct advantage when we're reading these and seeing this. And I think it could have also been an opportunity to work with classmates and kind of help them out.
So
We'll come back later and help.
So we're in separate groups throughout the whole, I guess, year-long curriculum. So this is we met each other months and months ago. We never worked together before, so we felt this is my last class. So I wanted to work with people I've made good connections with and friends with, and I never got the chance to work with them before. So that was kind of where we brought it to.
So overall, I think the presentation was very clean, well organized. I like the use of whatever presentation style it is. Out of curiosity, what program was that?
It's called Envato Elements, and I do it for all my reports. I mean, even in real life, they have the best templates. You can use it in design. They have Illustrator. They have even if you're trying to create a marketing strategy, it's $100
I've heard it
a year.
before. How do you spell it?
ENVATO.
First time I heard of that.
No, nobody knows about it, and I don't tell a lot of people. Yeah.
I put it all together.
They're gonna make it more
It's on video.
before people find out about it. It's all royalty-free stock images and everything. It's amazing. So Envato Elements, though. ENVATO.
So good job with the format and structure of the presentation. I think it was very clean. The graph and the presentation, the representation was good and easy to read. One of the downfalls I would say, and this applies to all the groups, or most of the groups, should I say, that the color legend for the blocks and lots just wasn't around. I was reading the report and I just didn't know what I was looking at. You can tell there's a lot of time and detail went into actually creating the exhibits and the angles and the site plan and showing the different blocks, but I just didn't know what product was when I was looking at the specific block. You can tie the pieces, you can put the read between the lines and connect dots. You know, obviously the apartments are higher than the regular townhomes, but you know, a clear legend for the presentation and report would have been, you know, easier to follow. Again, same comment to most of the other groups as well, the sequence. I think you guys, you know, each specific portion was well organized, but telling the story, the sequence of it would have been best to show the financials towards the end, all the city concerns, everything up front, your vision. I love the way you guys represented the character images, just kind of the character board per se of what the community is going to look like after the fact. That was a great representation of what your guys' vision was. So, you know, telling the story and selling yourselves like that, it definitely was a good job on that one. I love the energy. You guys came in, you know, you were confident about what you guys presented, or what you guys put together, so you can feel it when you're talking. You know, it's not just the pretty pictures coming off the presentation, it's also your voices and the way you guys carried yourself through the presentation, so good job on that. Also, I don't know if, Kyle, right?
Yes.
I don't know if someone was back there holding up cards, but how did you remember those financial?
Those things I learned to do. Yeah. I read spreadsheets all day and just memorize numbers.
The walking Excel.
Yeah.
I personally struggled with that too, but it was a great job not looking up at the board every single time to quote numbers. I can't do that myself, not sure how you did, but great job on that, just wanted to point that out. And one comment I want to make on this, which I found real comical, was I do like how you guys broke down the different groups and the political power and stuff, kind of like Danilo elaborated on here. You guys had the kids section in the skate park. You said no income, which is true. Obviously, kids don't make income. But you guys got to remember, too, that the kids aren't necessarily just the group. It's also the parents that are behind it. The parents make the income. Parents don't want the kids to play on the street. You know, they want their kids to have a place to hang out, skate, do whatever they want. I know you mentioned the city was concerned about broken, you know, injuries and everything else. Kids don't care. You know, I don't have kids, but when I have kids, they'll break a bone, you know, whatever it is. So that was my comment on that. But overall, good job, guys.
Thank you.
So that's why we put a sport park in there. We felt like
Fields.
Yeah. We needed team sports. We didn't want eye sports, just skateboarding. So it's
Whoa.
I feel attacked.
What?
Together, everyone's
But both posse style, gang style, ride and die in a team, you can find in skateboarding.
They can put a meeting. But we wanna
BMX and
integrate the
skateboarding.
community
Don't
for
talk to them
teamwork.
as loners. They are teams. So, alright, can I now? I like the presentation. I know it's a long day of presentations. We started at 8:15. Now this is presentation number 23, something like this. Small details, things, advices. Advices for everyone in the room. I cannot stop saying this. We had that in other presentations. Black background, white font. Unless you are really, really big with your letters, like headline style, don't. We had like 1 or 2 slides here with small fonts where large fonts would have been needed. He called it out. I can go back and find his grading sheet. Do not read your slides. This was between the teammates and the teams. Once in a while you had folks really word by word the slides. Kyle was pointed out as doing an excellent job running down numbers, not even once looking at the slide for the number, but just checking if it's slide number 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. Also, don't excuse your work. If something doesn't add up on the slide, you can't change the font size right now. You're in a presentation, you're selling it. Yeah? The moment you say, I'm not doing a great job, or I have typos in here, you're pointing out failure or mishaps. So no, I couldn't read that slide, fine. And then say, hey, as visually displayed here, marginally displayed, and you keep going. Yeah? Even try to make a joke about it in worst case. Yeah? But don't excuse your work. Practice, practice, practice. Keep saying this. There have been students in the room. You don't know if they did it 5 times or 50 times. Some people don't need 5 times. Some people need 50 times to know those 10 slides they are part of. I like the breakdown. It's interesting to see that the breakdown by functions and powers in interest groups was visually completely different, like from what Andrew did. So you might want to go back and compare both of those breakdowns because they have both benefits and negatives. Yeah? The visual dynamics on your breakdown, excellent job on the breakdown. Visual dynamics at the second slide, I'm like, where I'm racing, I felt like a race car, where I'm riding through which point. I got a little bit lost on that. But I think was a well-composed and highly dynamic presentation. The conclusion would need visuals. Again, present the key facts on a slide or two. Like grabbing back the high dynamic from the beginning, yeah, add a few numbers again and say, this is what we're pitching for you. This is the last 15 minutes on one slide. Because that slide is open now. For the last 10, 12 minutes of discussion and feedback, we would have had those key points again and at the end. Unless you're in a city council meeting where the rule says presentation has to end with a black slide. But right now I'm looking at context rather than last key facts. Keep that in mind. One thing about this, your report. Bullet points. Bullet points, bullet points, bullet points. Why are you using bullet points if you can write a paragraph or two about it?
It's numbers.
Huh?
For numbers, like
no, it
numbers
was
are
not for the numbers. It was I have to go back. It was part of the later on with the neighborhood sections. But yeah, overall, I like the work you guys did over the 6 weeks. I like everyone's work in here. You started with different points. Starting points. Some, as Noah pointed out, had different starting points based on our professional careers. Again, this is a team-based exercise that my primary factor on this one is to educate you for team-based work. We had prominent guest speakers coming in here that keep telling you guys, check your ego at the door. And I think this is one of the exercises in this program. This is the opening exercise. Next summer, when you do development 2 and you're doing a real world project with towers and buildings and rehab sites, environmental issues, regulatory analysis, financial analysis, this, you will remember this as a piece of cake. Stresses you had with your teammates have been a piece of cake in this exercise. Because you're going out and arguing $180 or $190 per square foot construction cost. Can offset a few $1 million in the bottom line. Alright, that all said, the last comment I want to do is thank you for the judges. You guys put time yesterday or Thursday night yesterday away, probably 2 or 3 hours in reading those reports, to go through those reports in detail, to give educational feedback as a learning curve or learning returns back to the students in the room. I applaud you for that. I thank you for that. I thank you guys for the 2 hours you had presence here tonight in the classroom as well. And I thank you everyone in the room for working hard and not being completely angry with me. Well, I will see that in 2 weeks when the students' evaluations come out, but don't be angry with me. I'm not angry with you. Thank you very much. This was a fun semester.
All right, guys. Easy one.